Hello, welcome to Modern Mongolia. This week we have a very interesting individual. It's Karolina. She's Polish and a traveler, travel blogger, and a minimalist. Karolina had lived in Mongolia for 8 years. She studied, worked, and traveled. And now she's residing in Tbilisi, Georgia. We talked about studying, making friends, and having a feeling of spaciousness while traveling in Mongolia. So here we go. How is life in Tbilisi right now? How is the
Very
situation?
comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, it's very cozy.
Mm-hmm.
Tbilisi is a bit like Ulaanbaatar, small with low number of people. Everything is in one place,
Mm-hmm.
so it's very easy to walk on foot and just find things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not too difficult in the lockdown. Unless you live very far from the city center, you're actually fine even if there is no public transport.
Uh-huh. That's great. And is everything fine in terms of the whole virus situation? How is it going on?
It's okay. We are right now under strict lockdown. So,
Mm-hmm.
all the restaurants are closed, all the museums are closed, no cinemas, no gyms, no public transport.
Oh.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we still can move by private cars.
Uh-huh.
But there is no intercity transport. There is no public transport in the city. Uh, we have also curfew.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
between 5 a.m., between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m., we cannot leave our home. So we have to stay at home whole
Uh-huh.
night.
I see. I think it seems like here in Ulaanbaatar it's getting better in terms of the curfew situation, but in terms of the political situation, it's crazy.
Yeah, I
As
heard that.
always. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I still follow pretty closely the developments in Mongolia, and I know
Mm-hmm.
that it's been a bumpy year and a bumpy month now, a pretty
Yeah,
rough patch
exactly.
for the country.
Mm-hmm.
I hope things will get better. I really do hope.
Yeah, me too. Uh-huh. And let's start with yeah, talking about your experience in Mongolia,
Yeah,
living in Mongolia. And you told me that you studied and also lived here in Mongolia
yeah,
quite a long time.
yeah,
It seemed like 8 years from 2011
yeah,
to 2019. And so
yeah.
please tell us, how did you first come to Mongolia?
Yeah. Well, so I actually for the first time I went to Mongolia in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
It was in
Yes. Uh-huh.
September 2008, and I
Uh-huh.
stayed from September 2008 to June 2009.
Uh-huh.
I was still a student.
Mm-hmm.
I studied Mongolian language and culture at the University of Warsaw in Poland,
Uh-huh.
and I got a scholarship
Uh-huh.
for a language course. So Polish government and my university decided to pay for me to go to Ulaanbaatar and study Mongolian language
Oh, I
at
see.
the National University of Mongolia.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the first time I ever set up my foot on Mongolian soil.
Mm-hmm.
And then I came back in 2011 and I stayed from
Mm-hmm.
from August 2011 until November 2019, so pretty long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds pretty long time. And so you studied Mongolian language in Warsaw.
Yes,
Why did you
yes.
decide to? Was it that you interested in? Like
You
it
know,
sounds interesting.
I was always a history geek. I always
Uh-huh.
liked history, and I liked learning not just Polish history, but global history.
Mm-hmm.
And at certain point of time, I was really in love with Japan and, samurais, manga,
Ah.
and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to focus on Japanese history. And
Uh-huh.
of course, if you read Japanese history, then it's only a matter of time until the Mongols
Uh-huh.
appear.
Yeah.
Uh, so for me, it was fascinating topic.
Mm-hmm.
I heard about Mongolia. I knew a bit about Ulaanbaatar, not too much, but enough to be like, okay, this is more or less where it's on a map. Uh, this is how Mongolia looks like. I heard about Genghis Khan, but once I started to get into Japanese Mongolian relations, I got increasingly interested in the history. I wanted to learn a bit more about Yuan dynasty, about Kublai Khan. That was really interesting to me. So when I got a chance to enter another faculty, I decided to go for Mongolian studies because my first major was Japanese studies.
Oh, I see.
So yeah.
So you studied it in MUIS in Ulaanbaatar, right?
Yeah.
And also you pursued your history study in PhD also, and
yeah.
So I think you have a pretty good, vast knowledge of Mongolian history. For me, I'm really bad at history. And so your study was mostly about Yuan dynasty and Kublai Khan's rule?
No, actually not. It's my interest started from that, but and I actually wrote both bachelor and master degree on the Japanese-Mongolian relations.
Ah, I see.
But eventually my interest evolved, and I focused more on foreigners in Mongolia. At some point, I was so long in Mongolia that I got really interested just, in those people who came before me, who came in the 19th century or 20th century. I just wanted to know how their life looked like. Why did they choose Mongolia to stay in, to live in, to make business in? And that was the focus of my PhD work. So I defend in 2019. I defended a PhD degree in Mongolian history with a focus on Western explorers, businessmen, and missionaries who traveled to Mongolia in the 19th and 20th century.
That sounds fascinating, actually. Yes,
it was really great topic, and it's a topic that is never ending, because even now, almost 2 years after I defended, I still find new materials, new people still appear. It's really amazing. You can. It's really surprising what kind of people went to Mongolia, what were their reasoning, how they were connected, because very often you discover that one person knew and another person and that other person knew somebody. And you get this whole network of connection, not only between foreigners, but also between Mongolians and foreigners, between Mongolian government and foreign embassies. It's amazing topic. It's really interesting.
So related to your research topic, so how was your relationship with the other foreigners, expats living in Mongolia while you was living here?
My relationship with other expats evolved. It evolved as the position in Mongolia changed. Originally, I came as a student, and that meant living in a student dormitory, low scholarship. So I for the first couple of years in Mongolia, I was hanging much more just with fellow students, with Mongolians, Koreans, Poles, anyone who basically was in the dormitory or lived in the area. With time, as I moved from being a student to being employed to having a job, my focus also shifted, and I started to hang out more with expats who came to Mongolia for work.
Yes,
So more fancier lifestyle with nicer restaurants and not always hand foods. So
yes.
At some point, I finally could go to veranda and not to bayalak boots. So that was a positive change. Not that I don't like bayalak boots, I liked a lot.
Yeah. How was it like to study here in Mongolia? What was the challenges? What was the advantages? Or what was the different aspects of studying in Warsaw and studying in Ulaanbaatar?
Well, the advantage of studying in Ulaanbaatar was first and foremost the accessibility of the materials.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the academic world in Mongolia is very small. So after a year or two, you know everyone. So it's very easy to be like, I need those materials. What can I do to access them?
Mm-hmm.
Or you know, you have all those amazing professors
Mm-hmm.
being willing to talk to you. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I read their books in Poland, and then in Mongolia I actually had a chance to talk to them, to meet them, to ask them to read my papers or read
Mm-hmm.
my dissertation. So that was amazing. I would never have this opportunity if I was in Warsaw.
Uh-huh.
I would always have to wait for a conference,
Mm-hmm.
but you know, chances were much smaller. So being in Mongolia, I had very easy access to archives.
Mm-hmm.
I had very easy access to highly qualified professors, and
Sure.
not only from Mongolia, but you know, there are also professors from Japan, from United States, from Russia coming regularly to
Mm-hmm.
Ulaanbaatar.
Mm-hmm.
So I built a lot of strong connections.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, I could visit all those places I was writing about. I could actually go around Ulaanbaatar and like, okay, this was Consular Hill.
Ah. Uh-huh.
This
Uh-huh.
is, you know, this is where Mongolor was located. That was pretty amazing.
Uh-huh.
The downside, of course, was that at least in the initial stage, I had to deal with the lack of classes in English.
Lack of.
So,
Uh-huh.
so all my classes were in Mongolian,
Oh,
and
yes, yes, yeah, yeah.
yes, so, and that was very difficult at times because it's
Mm-hmm.
one thing to be able to communicate with people on the street,
Mm-hmm.
and a completely different if you have to understand, you know, a 2 hour long lecture in
Absolutely,
Mongolian.
yes.
So
That must
that
be
was
hard. Yeah.
it was really hard. Like
Uh-huh.
I got used to that, but in the beginning it was very hard. And of course, I was also expected to present in Mongolian.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I had any presentation, so and that was always killing me. I was not only stressed out, but I also had to speak in my third or fourth language. So that was really
Uh-huh.
difficult. But otherwise, I have very fond memories of studying in Mongolia.
Mm-hmm.
I had amazing supervisor
Mm-hmm.
who really did his best to support me through all 5 years of my PhD
Mm-hmm.
studies. I had fantastic committee. I still am in touch with those people. They really
Sure.
were, frankly speaking, they were more supportive than what I faced what I got in Warsaw. So for
Uh-huh.
me, moving from Warsaw to Ulaanbaatar was a very positive change.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, but it was the lectures were tough.
I could imagine because Mongolian language itself is quite difficult, and as
It
you
is very
said,
difficult.
like having academic lectures, I can imagine
Yeah,
actually.
yeah.
Yes.
It was tough, believe me. It was
Yep.
super tough.
But I assume that you are quite fluent in Mongolian now, like by now.
More or less. Like I wouldn't call myself fluent. Like I'm definitely not on a native speaker level, and I
Uh-huh.
definitely struggle with some things.
Mm-hmm.
But if you know, I'm probably somewhere around B2, maybe C1.
Mm-hmm.
So you know,
Mm-hmm.
well, I was. Now it's hard to say after 2 years.
Yes.
I still can follow Mongolian Twitter, so that's good.
That's very good. Yeah, that's more than enough, I think. Do you like any favorite Mongolian expression, like in Mongolian language? Do you like any favorite word or
Yeah,
expression or?
you know, I'm sure you know this proverb. I valbuhi, he valbuai.
Yeah, yeah.
It's my favorite. I've been like,
Uh-huh.
this has been like my life motto.
Uh-huh.
Since I learned it, I was like, every time I'm having some tough decision
Uh-huh.
and I'm hesitant, I'm just like repeating in my head, I valbuhi, he valbuai.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, fine, and decisions are just coming. So
Uh-huh.
this, and of course, Yana, that stayed with me for my whole life, I think.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
recently, Yana, Odo Yahweh, Yakshte. I have, I
Yes,
keep
yes.
using those even now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So that stay with you. That's
Yeah, yeah,
very
yeah.
funny. And so you after so did you join working in a travel company after you finish your
Yeah,
study? Uh-huh.
yeah.
So
Well, yeah. Sorry.
it's fine. And so how was it like to work in a travel industry in Mongolia?
Was
How did you
amazing.
find it? Uh-huh.
Yes, so I when I was still a student, uh, I was asked several times to guide Polish groups because there are not many Polish speaking guides in Mongolia, and during
Uh-huh.
season it's very hard to book them last minute.
Mm-hmm.
So almost after first 2 years in Mongolia, people started to contact me and ask me to guide trips for them. So I got a bit of that. And then
Oh.
at some point, I started to work with a small Mongolian company to just for me to to get more fun than anything because I wanted to see Mongolia and I couldn't afford this with my scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
But they also wanted to have a native, somebody speaking English who could put adverts for them or create a website.
I
So
am.
we exchanged services.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually I spent like 5 years like that, just,
Mm-hmm.
occasionally having a Polish tourist or helping a tour company. But then in 2016, I got I found a serious job.
Mm-hmm.
I started to work with a British tour company
I see.
that that had high-end trips to Mongolia,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
I was running their office in Ulaanbaatar, and it was
Mm-hmm.
amazing. I'm
Mm-hmm.
really fond of those years. It was a lot of work. It was highly stressful work. So after 3 years, I was like, I'm done. I need a break from
Yeah,
those
yeah.
helicopter tours.
Yes.
Uh, but it was amazing, and Mongolia is very beautiful, so I never got to the point where I was like, okay, I don't want to go to the Gobi Desert again, or I don't want to see Khuvsgul Lake again. I was like, no, fine, I will just go. I've been 12 times, I can go another time.
Wow.
So it was, yeah,
Wow. Yes.
it
Actually,
was
yeah. Like it seemed like starting from recent years, like 2, 3 years ago, like Mongolia is like very, very hot destination in travel field, and
yeah,
people are very interested. So
yeah,
yeah, that's very nice. And
yeah.
so you could manage to travel dozen of places in Mongolia.
Yes, I did travel quite a lot. Obviously, there is still plenty of places I haven't seen.
Mm-hmm.
It's a huge country. It's impossible. You can spend 20 years and you will still have seen places, have places that you haven't seen.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I did travel quite excessively in Mongolia, so
Oh.
I,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I know the country quite well
Mm-hmm.
by now.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just wonderful experience. It's a very beautiful place to be in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's your favorite part of Mongolia? Favorite um,
Mm,
emak or song?
I think I like the most Gobi Desert.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
I know, I know a lot of people are saying Bayan Olgi or Central Mongolia.
Mm-hmm.
For me, Gobi Desert has a sentimental value. My
Mm-hmm.
first trip ever outside of Ulaanbaatar was to Hamrenhead.
Uh-huh.
So I went to Sunshine
Mm-hmm.
on a train
Mm-hmm.
to see Hamar Monastery and that area. So even though there maybe are more beautiful or interesting places, it's a place that I really like to go back to. I try to go back to every year
Uh-huh.
to get energy from Shambhala.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
For myself, I need to travel a lot. I still have a lot of places to see. I have only been to Hofschool a few times, and every summer I go to Arhangai to visit my
Yeah,
grandparents. And now I'm waiting to all of these restrictions to get loose, and I could
yeah,
travel between the
yeah,
provinces. So there's a lot to
yeah.
travel here. Yeah.
There is, and it gets better,
Mm-hmm.
over this decade that spent focus on Mongolia. I have seen a lot of improvements.
Mm-hmm.
Things that used to be non-accessible are now much clearer. You can
Mm-hmm.
find bus schedules,
Mm-hmm.
you can get tickets online.
Mm-hmm.
There are more buses. The buses have a higher standard.
Mm-hmm.
The routes are better planned. So yeah, there's a lot of positive progress. People are also getting better in utilizing phone applications and
Mm-hmm.
social media. So you can get now a shared taxi without problems
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
on Facebook or on application. That's pretty
Mm-hmm.
awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It
Um,
gets easier.
mm-hmm. As now that you're not in Mongolia anymore, what do you miss most about Mongolia?
Ooh, ooh. I miss space.
Uh-huh.
Space, like just being able to get out of the city and just have this huge, enormous, massive open space, just without trees, without people, maybe with some gear far, far away, maybe with some
Mm-hmm.
hill, but
Mm-hmm.
but just generally the empty open space.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia is amazing. It's a very beautiful country with wonderful mountains,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
uh, but you don't get this feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere you go, there is a village or forest, or you're in a mountain valley, so it's very closed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Even if you're in a very remote place, it's almost it's like being in Tavan Bog National Park. Only mountains, 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 and I miss this feeling of having nothing in my way.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I miss a lot.
I really love this answer because I totally agree with you. I love this about like having this space to like it gives me feeling of like real true freedom and I could just
Yeah,
breathe. Yeah, I love that
yeah,
about it.
I do agree. It's all about freedom. It's about being close to nature,
Mm-hmm.
uh, feeling the wind just blowing in your face,
Mm-hmm.
and being able to breathe fresh air. It's yeah. I haven't experienced anything similar in any country I've been to, and I think I will always miss that
Mm-hmm.
feeling. I think you can only get it in Mongolia.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. Um, how was it like to make friends in Mongolia, like culturally, or did you have any challenges to make
I,
friends?
I, I, I did. I think uh, part of the problem is that Mongolians make friends when they are very young.
Uh-huh.
It's one of those countries, and we almost have none of that in Poland, when you still have friends from your kindergarten
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
or primary school or high school,
Mm-hmm.
and you keep in touch with them. And then you get married and have your own family. So for most Mongolians, there is no break when they are looking for new friends.
Mm-hmm.
uh, when for me, and obviously it's not for not every single Mongolian, but that was something that I noticed, that when I first came, I was already 24, so older than regular Mongolian students.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So by 24, many Mongolians were already having families,
Yeah, yeah.
or looking, especially, well, let's not forget that it was 2008, so it was over, soon it will be 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So of course things changed since then, but it was everyone was really kind and very welcoming, but it was very difficult to build this close relation,
Uh-huh.
because they just didn't need this emotional connection. They had already families, friends, spouses. If they wanted to hang out with somebody, they could always call the friends from high school or you know, from their cohort, from the people who they were studying with. So that was really challenging to get through that barrier. Later on, it got easier and easier as I started to meet also Mongolians who focus more on career, or Mongolian women who were decided not to get married in their 20s but wanted to wait until their 30s. So eventually I built a very good network of friends with whom I'm still in touch. But you know, this as a student, like, I think that when I went to Mongolia, I was expecting that it will be easier to make friends. And it wasn't. It was quite challenging. So during my first year, I had almost no Mongolian friends. Later on, I got some. But it wasn't, you know, it wasn't as easy as it's as later.
Yeah, it is actually very different new perspective for me that, as you said, Mongolians get have a family at a very early age. They kind of get emotionally occupied, and they don't have they don't try to make new space for like some new people or new friendships. So that's actually very true. And unless you get get employed or have another community to create the bond, so it could be quite challenging. But now it's getting better.
True. For me, finding work was this push to finally make friends, because as you said, people also look to hang out with their co-workers. So we started with some parties, then, you know, with company outings. Some people at work I liked more than the others, so it got easier. But if you're just there and you don't fit the group age-wise or language-wise, then it will be very difficult for you to make friends. That's what I felt, especially when you're young. When you're older, it's not a problem, because there is actually a lot of highly qualified Mongolians who are focused on career, who speak foreign languages really well, and they are seeking for friends, and they seek to hang out with expats or other similar Mongolians. But the study time was tough. In terms of
please share us about your favorite thing about Mongolian arts. Like, do you like favorite Mongolian music, or painter, or
painter? Yeah, so my favorite painter would definitely be Art of Zaya. I've been following him almost since the beginning of his career, before he was still, because now he's quite famous.
Yes,
he, especially in Japan, but I've been following him for years now, and I just really like the colors he's using. He has very specific way of drawing things. Now you just see his art, and you know, okay, this is this is Zaya, this is his work. I never got to the point where I could afford buying his work, but I hope that one day I will be able to do that and just bring it home and have it on my wall. You know, it's a pity that some of his best works are already sold out, and I will never be able to get one, but he's still producing actively. As for music, I do like traditional Mongolian music. And I do like Humi, I do like Morin Hor, I do like Long Song. I also admit to liking popular music, you know, the ones like Sarantuya, for example.
Yeah, everyone loves Sarantuya.
Everyone loves her. I travel, you know, when I was on trips. Most of Mongolian drivers, they were listening to this popular Mongolian pop, and I really got used to it. So, you know, like any song like Mini Mongol Nadam or Mini Ech Temechin. I could probably even sing this one. So yeah. So obviously I'm aware of bands like Altan Bulag, The Who, The Colors, and so on. But I just really like, this more down to earth music that you can hear in the buses or in the among the Mongolian drivers, travel, tour drivers.
Yeah. Now the Who is quite a big thing now.
It is big. It is.
Yes.
It's amazing. They put a lot of effort into their songs.
It sounds great, and it's very catchy, and it has this folk spirit, but it's also very rock and
their songs have mission. They are talking about important matters. It's not just because it's catchy. They really are, at least in they try to talk about problems that Mongolia is dealing with, and they are trying to address it. So it's not just that that it sounds nice. It's more than that.
Yeah, and I was just kind of thinking that Who is also becoming one of the reasons that people are, the other countries are getting very interested in Mongolia. And that's why I also decided to start this podcast, like how is it like to live in Mongolia and share the experience. And do you have any bit of advices who are coming to Mongolia to travel or to live here?
Well, for people who travel, I do recommend reading a bit in advance, because Mongolia is not an easy country to travel in, not in comparison to what people are used to in Europe, for example. It's amazing country, and I do believe that I know people whose life completely changed because of Mongolia. I knew people who couldn't forget about their trips 20 years after the trip. Whose whole life was changed by this one tour to Mongolia. They were totally inspired and grateful to be able to be there. But to really get the best out of Mongolia, you have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to come prepared for the fact that it's not going to be like home. No, you will not get McDonald's, you will not get Starbucks. Especially not outside of Ulaanbaatar. The roads are tough. It's a huge country. To get from one point to another point, it's really long drive. It's a country that is very close to the nature, so you will not have those giant shopping malls where you can go to the toilet without any problems. You just have to, wear a skirt and hide behind a hill or a rock. And you can't expect a 5-star hotel in the Gobi Desert. You can expect hospitality, clean bed, and magnificent views, but you don't expect a Michelin star in Dalan Zadgat. Or that's not going to happen. So you really need to understand what to expect in the country. And I'm a bit worried now that Mongolia is getting so popular that the country will get a lot of people who want to just take the list and say, oh, I was in this highly popular country, but they will not know what Mongolia is about, and they will just write poorly. Because they will just expect another Hong Kong or Singapore, which, I don't want Mongolia to be another Hong Kong. I don't think anyone wants to be it's a very different country, very different people. And if somebody comes to live in Mongolia, then of course there is a lot of practical advices that I could give in terms of finding apartment, in terms of commuting. But I think the most important advice that I can give is to learn to be patient. Once you learn to let go and just wait for things, your life will be very easy. and very comfortable. And I'm not, I do miss Mongolia and I do miss Ulaanbaatar, but time is a bit different there. And things are changing, they are speeding up, and everything is really improving in terms of service, and it's there in terms of quality, but it's a different culture. You can't expect to feel like home if you're in a different country. It's just impossible, I can't expect Georgia to be like Poland. or Poland to be like France. It's a different country with different set of problems, different advantages and disadvantages.
Yes. No expectation, and just go with it and be
right? Well, and to be fair, for any country, if somebody is planning to move to another country, you always need to do your research. You always should think about, staying a couple of days in a hotel or Airbnb to look for nice places in the town, to see what fits your need, what doesn't fit your needs. Not just be like, oh, I'll just go there. I saw photos, done. That's not how it works.
Yes, I totally agree. And I also think that it also takes courage if someone decides to live here and move here, and you need to adapt some kind of harsh weather and also totally different culture. And what would you say if I ask you to say 3 words about when you think of Mongolians?
3 words, associations, just what I think when I
not about the country but about the people.
Mongolians.
Yes.
Strong, resilient, and well, it's probably 2 words now, music lovers. That would be 3 things that, like, when I think about Mongolians, that come to my mind. Really, really strong people, very resilient, able to handle any weather conditions, any difficulties, and everyone just loves music. I don't think I know a Mongolian person who would say, "Oh, I don't sing, I don't dance, I don't like music."
I agree.
I don't know if this person exists.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, everyone likes to sing, and especially in the countryside. Whenever they go herd sheep, they always go like singing long songs.
Well, and then with time you learn that music has different meanings. Different songs serve different purposes. That if your driver starts singing, it's probably because he gets sleepy. So it's time to stop the car and get him out of the car and just walk around because he gets tired and he keeps himself entertained. So you learn. It's really, I do believe that Mongolians are probably one of the most music-loving nations in the world. Music is everywhere in Mongolia.
And at now, what do you do in Tbilisi?
So I still work for a tour company. Another tour company that is selling trips to Central Asia and to South Caucasus, so Georgia, Armenia, and Azerbaijan. But last month I started my own company too, a small travel company that is, I started with 2 friends, and it's growing quite nicely. So I hope that within the next 3-4 months I will be able to completely switch to my own business. And this year, because of COVID, we had grand plans, but it's COVID. So this year we operate on local market. We work with expats who live in Georgia, and they would like to learn more about the country in an affordable but also sustainable way. So that they already know the basics, but they would love to travel off the beaten path. So we offer those services. And this year is Georgia, but I do hope that within 2 years we will also be able to get to Mongolia and start bringing travelers to Mongolia, because I definitely would love to go back.
Yeah, that sounds amazing because I was going to ask that are you planning to come back to Mongolia? What are
I
your
do plan.
Mhm.
I do plan, and I would like to go back sooner rather than later.
That's
Uh,
great.
and I do hope that I will be able to come as a business owner
Hmm.
and just have my and just experience another level of Mongolia, because I have seen it as a very young person, as a student. I have seen it as an employee of Mongolian company, then as
Uh-huh.
a manager of a foreign company. Now
Uh-huh.
I would like to see it as somebody who is a bit, who can serve with the expertise, who
Uh-huh.
can bring people to Mongolia and show them Mongolia from a perspective of a foreigner who, it's a bit different perspective than if
Mm-hmm.
you're a Mongolian
Mm-hmm.
uh, born in Mongolia.
Mm-hmm.
People see things in a different way, but I hope that, yeah, but I hope that if not this year, then the next year we will be
Mm-hmm.
back.
Uh-huh.
And then I can finally, get my dream on the way.
That sounds great.
Thank
Um,
you.
and also, my best friend in my anthropology class was Georgian, and I heard
Oh
like
yeah.
amazing stories about like how she camped in the mountains for weeks. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, one day I'm totally going to Georgia to have those camping experience. And so
Yeah.
it sounded
Yeah.
amazing. And
Yeah.
whenever, yeah.
Georgia is wonderful for camping and hiking.
Mhm.
Really, you can do that
So
all day long.
whenever I
Yeah.
have a chance to go there, then I know who to contact.
Please come.
Yeah,
Please come. I
that's
will be
amazing.
glad. I will gladly host you. Host you.
Great. Yes. And thank you very much. Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you so much for talking. And I think now it concludes our talk for now. Thank you so much for your time. And
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed talking about Mongolia again.
thank you so much. And thank you for coming to the podcast.
Thank you. Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Bye. And good luck with your business. I really wish all the best.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you everyone for listening. And please check Karolina's blog. It's the silkroadminimalist.com, and her blog is very, very interesting. She writes about her travel and travel spots in Mongolia, in also Georgia. And see you next time. Thank you.